Alright, well, this is my last video for 2021, and it's a big one. I've been going through a lot of internal change, and I'm gonna work that out. So there's a strong chance that I might not be able to post as frequently or not in a while for YouTube. Hey guys, it's Toniko. So I've been silent. I've been taking a break from the arts and animation community. I've been taking a break from doing YouTube stuff, and I'm just kind of hibernating in my own surroundings for the time being, especially when COVID cases are rising. I've also been going through a somewhat transformative state in my personal life, and to the point where it's caused me a great deal of anxiety and stress for the past 2 weeks. Like, it got pretty bad where in a span of a week or two, I already lost 10 pounds. Luckily, I'm gaining that back and I'm recalibrating myself. But in other words, I've been going through quite a lot. So today I want to talk about a certain type of motivation that I followed for a lifetime. And now that type of motivation has questioned my own integrity. I've talked about topics like motivation in the past, but I think this one's a pretty big one because it's pretty much jeopardized my own honesty. This is where I talk about how holding grudges was enough to motivate any action that I do. It affected any opportunities that I took, and it affected every decision that I made. You see, I was raised with a certain foundation of having to report to someone, whether that's a teacher or a parent, and to constantly seek approval. If I was told I was doing something good, that would make my day. I would feel like I had purpose. As a kid, there were many times where I was punished and I didn't really understand why, but deep down, I knew that I grew a lot of resentment within me and towards everyone else. In life, there were many times I was rejected on things, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how hard I presented myself, or maybe because there was something that was being held back. This includes internships, job opportunities, and even potential relationships. They're all involved in all of this. My life was all about proving people wrong, that I'm better than how they view me, that I'm better than them for doubting me. Now, I'm not going to go into my full life story here, but let's just say that it became an absolute paradigm for me. The fact that I started doing things because I wanted some form of retribution, whether it was towards a person or a community. I realized I held a lot of grudges. Now, for those who've been following me for a long time, I've always talked about doing therapy and vouching for therapy, and I've been doing therapy constantly for the past year, and I've been breaking myself down and finding ways to talk about how I feel and what I go through, especially in this industry and this career. But even then, I still had the urge to pick fights, especially with friends who only wanted better for me. I can't remember where I read this, but it talked about how there are people who have this certain serial behavior. It's a behavior that consists of patterns where you're being destructive or you're saying hurtful things towards others so everyone realizes that you exist or you're alive and that you just want people to care about you. When I read that, it just made me think of a few examples in my life where I was this. There were a few times where my friends would just go out to a party and have a blast, but I was left out. I start thinking of all these crazy scenarios of why they would leave me behind purposely. Maybe they didn't think I was cool enough, or they didn't want me around. I would then confront them, and they'll say that I'm overreacting to things. They'll eventually apologize, but a part of me would just still continue beating them down verbally in hopes they would just regret their choice. And even though they've made their apology clear, I would just keep going on. There was just no way I wanted to cool down and let that slide. I wanted to show them and I wanted to feel that I was hurt and angry. And of course, this type of behavior is super toxic, and a person who has self-value will just step back and basically ignore. I did this a lot to my parents. And so it made me think about doing things, starting projects and things like that, in hopes that it would elevate me and that I would leave these people behind. So now it made me think of my career and what I do. When I start to reflect on all the short films that I've did during my CalArts years, I now realize that 50% of them do not come from an honest place that I'm proud of. Crayon Dragon, Wolfsong, and Tiny Nomad are products of me wanting to show studios that I was worthy. I could do dramatic character acting and tell stories. I could match their way of working. It was also motivated by my classmates who had all these amazing internship experiences, and they were just treating me like I was still clueless for whatever I did, talking about how their internship experience was enlightening. So I always felt like I was behind, and they made sure that I felt like that. And just letting you know, I don't think it was their intention. I think the scenario that I came up with was all in my head, but it was enough to keep that resentment so I could motivate myself with it. It only fueled that grudge. However, I can't say that all the films that I've done were based on my grudges because there were parts of me that did enjoy it. I wouldn't have finished them if I didn't, because those projects were done during some of the hardest times of my life where I did feel alone, where I was filled with grudge, and I always had to act as my own cheerleader. In my career, I wanted to climb up. I wanted to elevate my career ranks from storyboarding to directing and further on. The more I didn't hit those, the more I would feel ungrateful about what I already had, or what I already have. This isn't ambition, it's an ego addiction that only keeps asking for more. This didn't just stem into my art and career, but what I valued in life. Like I said, it affected relationships, and it also affected my relationship with my parents, where a part of me just wanted to feed off on their hurt and conflict. It made me try to have control of everything, and even try to know people's thoughts about me. It also made me put a mask on so I wasn't being honest with other people and myself, and I only said things that seemed safe and that would make me likable. It also made me do things in hopes to please certain people and mess with my own integrity. People can read that, by the way. I chased things, I chased people, I compared myself to many people, and I wanted to find ways to outsmart them, to get on their level, or to become better than them. There were times where I would just improve drastically in my skills, but when I don't hit the mark or when I'm not at the level of other people that I look up to, I start beating myself over and I start being ungrateful for the hard work that I put into myself. The hardest part for me to do was to let go of all that anger or all that grudge. I didn't want to let it go because that was fueling all my motivation, all my strength. But then at the same time, I realized that toxicity is eating me up inside. And me apologizing or making amends was kind of scary for my fragile ego at the time. I hate feeling down and angry all the time. It's not a good feeling. So I did have to make some small steps, like reaching out to people that I held grudges against, talking to them, apologizing to a few of them for the way I've acted around them. I mean, I also have to acknowledge that we've all changed for the past few years. We've all grown up. We've all become very different people. And I have to say, there are parts of me that felt like a burden was lifting off. Now, for the time being, I can't think of a grudge that I have when I tackle a certain project. Maybe it's just me being tired of finding a reason to be fueled by anger or retribution. But now I'm hoping to be a bit more aware, present, and honest with my own intentions. Maybe it'll allow me to judge people less, and try not to understand the nitpicks of everyone's life, what they think of me, and what's beyond my scope. I think this feeling is freeing. But this whole feeling is so new to me that the anxiety is unreal. Like I said, I lost sleep, weight, and motivation because I felt like there was a deep change going on within me. I do believe that the change is good, and it's for the better. And maybe it's just me trying to grasp it, to adapt to it, to understand it. But one thing I know for sure is that it's going to allow me to be more honest with myself, something that I've been jeopardizing a lot. Luckily, I have some of the best friends in the world who can understand what I'm going through, who can talk to me about these things and to give some great advice, and I'd love to share them here actually. One thing that really helps is just to prioritize and know your own surroundings and circumstances first and foremost. Trying to know where others are in their life is overwhelming. Trying to know what people think of you is overwhelming. Trying to know why you're not involved in certain things is overwhelming too. And not getting a certain opportunity and overthinking why that is overwhelming. However, those things are far out of your control, and you'd be more at peace being able to do things that you do have control over. Things like watching your health, finishing a project, regardless if it's crappy or good quality, and making time with friends that actually do value you and your presence. Things I don't have control over is none of my business. I think that's a healthier version of ignorance is bliss. Another thing is to avoid hyperbolizing an opinion of a person based on an experience. So for example, if you're into someone, you don't really recognize their faults. You'll just praise them with everything positive and good. If you had a bad experience with someone, you might describe them as a person that's, the most awful thing to exist. When it came to career opportunities, I know someone that keeps asking me to be a part of their project, to be like a big part of their project. And then I would feel like I belonged. I felt grateful. And then they would move forward with the project without me with other people. And then I would be like, yo, what the hell? That was totally rude. I'm betrayed. But you know what? We're all not perfect. So now I've been giving myself, more space and room to myself and towards others. The next advice that I have, and this is something that my friends would always say, is just to be present. Thinking about the past and future all the time can affect the way you are handling the present. Try not to think ahead or use a certain hurt in the past to not be able to enjoy the present. and find ways to have an enjoyable time even during the present. The next advice that I have is just to be completely honest with yourself. And in this video, I've been talking about integrity and honesty. And what I mean is don't do things because it looks good for other people. It looks good to them. So you look more appealing or attractive. But deep down, you don't really enjoy it, you don't really mean it. And it's really all about finding what you love to do and what feels the most true for you. If you got a job offer that looks good, it'll look good on your career, but you're not really into it, it's okay to decline it. It's okay to say no. There's no shame in that. Also, you look sexier when you say no. And I think it's okay to be a bit more straightforward, to be a bit more blunt, to say what you want immediately, get things out of the way. So there's no, pretending, or there's no game that you're playing. You know how some people are really unclear and they're not really direct, so they're very cryptic and very wishy-washy, to the point where it's almost low-key manipulative? Yeah, that's something I want to avoid more. The last advice that I have is to practice gratitude. I kept chasing things that I didn't have, but now it's time for me to be grateful for the things that I do have. I have my career. I have a community. I have stable income. I can take care of myself. And I have some of the best friends in the world who genuinely care. And I can still learn things from them. And I can still learn things in general. These are things that I will practice for 2022 and beyond. Every day I think about the man that I want to grow up to become. Someone that ensures the safety of others, someone that inspires others, someone that helps the community out. I also want to be able to make really cool things, cool projects, finish them, and be able to thank all the people that have helped me in my journey. Feeling proud of the people that have been a part of my life. I hope it will make me make things that are more genuine and honest, regardless if it's the worst thing to come out, if it's the best thing to come out. I shouldn't be trying to impress everyone all the time. All that matters to me now is learning to become more comfortable with my own honesty, and to try and be grateful and to enjoy the things that I currently have. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next year. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.